Before we start the video, make sure to subscribe to my channel. I appreciate all the support I received from you. And as always, all the information in my videos is rumors taken from the internet or the street. I'm not saying the information is fact.
Pick your mans up.
And just because people used to come through shooting us every day. And this block, words can't even explain. Can't even explain.
Yeah, man. Little school Valley, 05 way on money. Young money, man. They in the building.
600 boy, LA, man. LA Capone, man. Get it to him, man. OC2 boys, man. Team
number 9, man. Number 9 shooter, you hear me?
Hey, bitch, you little bitch. Yeah. What the fuck is wrong with you, hey, I am BrickSquadd. BrickSquadd, what the fuck is you talking about, bro?
You have to be willing to die or go to jail for 100 years if that's the lane that you're stepping in. You have to understand that whether you're 15, 16, you got to think like a man. You know what I'm saying?
So don't be in it. Oh, you're not? Why does everybody say you're only 16 years old?
They say what they want to say.
How old are you?
300.
The story of Lil JoJo.
Second verse, on dog pound shit, BDK shit. BrickSquadd,
Yes, I keep them, took them down, so left them.
You know what I'm saying? Them L's and everything. Look at the wall. These niggas claim 300, but we BDK. Wow.
BDK, the movement, I made that. BDK, no lag.
You know what I'm saying? You get caught up in this shit. This real life. This where little JoJo got killed. Stains on the ground, you feel me? Shit. This it right here. This real. This ain't fake. This ain't fake. Right here.
Selena, he got that ratchet on him.
R.I.P. JoJo, man, you gone, never forgotten though. We know you holding down up there, but we got you while you out here short. Squad.
R.I.P. JoJo, man. Real niggas don't die, they assassinated, man. Skip it. Squad shit, man. R.I.P. JoJo, man.
VIP JoJo, man. Ball of Paradise, man. You already know how we rock, man. We turn up every day for JoJo and our kid.
Squad. For JoJo, R.I.P. our kid.
This is the story of Lil JoJo, one of the most legendary and important figures from the Chicago drill era. He came up during the same time as rappers such as Lil Durk, Lil Reese, FBG Duck, Lil J and not least Chief Keef. Lil JoJo was basically the face of the GD movement back then, even more than FBG Duck, who later took over his spot. He also created an entire movement that still lives on today, the BDK movement, which started, or rather escalated, the war with the 300 movement, which included gangs like Lamron and K-Town. Lil JoJo also had a great hatred for Chief Keef, which is why O Block, Front Street, 600 and THF 46 were also drawn into the war. Lil JoJo is truly one of my favorite rappers from the 2012 era. If he had lived today, I'm sure he would have been at the top. He had hit songs such as Tied Up, I Got That Sack, Have It All, and not least BDK. I hope you enjoy this story. Lil JoJo, whose real name was Joseph Coleman, was born on April 6, 1994 on the south side of Chicago. He grew up in the South Darren area, Trammell Park to be more specific. He grew up together with his 3 months older brother, Swag Dinero. Both shared the same father but had different mothers. They lived in different households. However, the households were very close, which made it possible to be with each other all the time. The brothers even used to sneak out in the evenings and nights to hang out with each other. However, very early in the brothers' lives, their father, John Coleman, was sentenced to 13 years in prison for attempted murder. Lil JoJo was only 5 months old when this happened. This forced the brothers' mothers to take care of their sons as best they could. Later, Swag Dinero moved to the suburbs up north together with his mother. Lil JoJo also followed and lived there for 2 years because Swag thought Lil JoJo drifted in the wrong direction. In an interview with DJ Vlad, Swag told Dinero that he met his dad after 13 years at his 14th birthday party, but that his dad got locked up yet again the next year for drugs and got sentenced to 22 years in jail. John Coleman is still serving time in federal prison to this day. JoJo and Swag also had a sister, Nakayla, who was born in May in the same year as them. She was originally from Brain Dead, just like Motor from Jaro City. When their father got locked up, both Lil JoJo and Swag began to enter the criminal path more and more. Sure, before they had probably gotten caught for petty crimes, but once their father got locked up and they moved back to the south side, they became more deeply involved in gang life. However, both stayed away from selling and using drugs, much because of his dad. Swag said they sold weed here and there, but nothing too serious that could get them life in jail. Like most Chicago gang members, JoJo and Swag grew up in criminal circles. Basically everyone in their family was involved in the gang environment, their dad, cousins and even uncles, and everyone was gangster disciples, which was the reason why they too became so. However, I'm not sure if his father or uncles were insane GD like JoJo. Their mothers were really the only ones in the family who were not involved in gang life. Both tried hard to keep the family together and their children out of that life. Swag's mother even once found Polaroid photos of JoJo and Swag where they posed with gang signs and therefore gave them the beats. She really tried her hardest to keep them out of it. Growing up, Swag and JoJo had to figure out and learn things by themselves. Because they did not have a father figure around, they themselves had to learn what it means to be a man. They really had to mature and grow up fast already at the age of 12 to 13. Which means that they made mistakes which their father could have prevented if he had been there. In fact, one cannot expect children in their early teens to know everything already, how to behave like a man, what is right and wrong and so on, without making mistakes or ending up on the wrong track. It's just too much to ask from a child growing up in that environment where everyone in their family is a gang member, their friends going through the same thing, and the older ones push the younger ones to commit crimes. As many of you already know, Lil JoJo was a rapper, just like his brother Swag Dinero. Swag was actually the first of the two to start with the music. He already started rapping in his freshman year. The producer Smiles from BrickSquadd, that most of you are familiar with, saw Swag's talent for rap and brought him to the studio. JoJo, on the other hand, was not rapping at first and did not want to either. It was not until the now mainstream and huge rapper, Lil Durk from Lamron, dropped the song LIL's Anthem, that Lil JoJo decided to start rapping for real, and by doing that, creating the BDK movement that still lives on today. Many of you probably do not understand this and will maybe call me crazy, but Lil JoJo is really a legend among the GD gangs on the south side. I believe he's actually up there with legends such as Larry Hoover, not in terms of putting in work and getting money, but by creating a strong movement that still lives on and that matters to a lot of people. I see JoJo as the modern version of them. He literally brought the GD gangs together and paved the way for a dozen rappers that carried on his legacy. As many of you already know, both JoJo and Swag, like Smiles, were members of the BrickSquadd faction of the Gangster Disciples. Before we go on and talk about Lil Durk's song LIL's Anthem, and how it escalated the whole war on the south side, I thought I would tell you about BrickSquadd's history. BrickSquadd is an insane gangster disciple set located on 69th to 70th, Normal to Harvard. BrickSquadd was created in 2010 by Chiraq, who originally came from Lamron, but who later flipped to BrickSquadd after his cousin Thomas from D Block was killed by Lil Law, Lil Reese and OTF twin from Lamron in early May 2010. BrickSquadd existed before Chiraq came along, though under a different name, Dead End NTG, which stands for Normal Town Gangsters. NTG was originally all GDs, but once Chiraq, who remained BD, came along in 2010, both BrickSquadd and D Block became mixed with GDs and BDs. In addition to Chiraq, there are BDs such as Clado, Freaky, Tells and Arpith from BrickSquadd/D Block. Out of D Block and BrickSquadd was D Block, the original insane set, which was formed by Clado. Their original name was Dope Block, which was over time changed to D Block, who are located on 70th and Eggleston. The insane movement was created by JFL, which consisted of 3 people, Jason, Fluffy and Leo, who all decided to come together and create the Crooked Insane movement, which basically meant they wanted to be renegade ZBK. Previously, people believed that sets such as Pillsville, CMB and Bodie World were insane, but that is not true. However, they are still cool with them. Another thing that needs to be said for you to understand the story is that BrickSquadd and D Block are 2 separated sets. However, they are basically the same thing, much like STL and EBT or A Block and 600. They should be seen as separated, but is as close as 2 sets can be. BrickSquadd is allied with sets such as Mob, What the World, STL/EBT, Jaro City, CMB, Dump Street, Tay City and of course D Block. However, it's not like they slide together with all of those sets, it's more like they are cordial with most of them because they share the same enemies from a decade back in time. The reason BrickSquadd became cordial with STL/EBT and Jaro City is really because of Lil JOJO, who was cool with rapper Lil J. Alliances are largely, especially today, based on relationships between peoples. Back in the day, in the 80s and 90s, it was a lot about which nation you belong to, but today it is only relationships, blocks, cliques and families. Nation does not really matter anymore. However, the sets that BrickSquadd is real allies with is Block Burna on 68th and Purnell, JJ Gang on 68th and Normal, Man Gang on 69th and Purnell, Wookie World on 69th and Normal, Wagga World on 75th and Stewart and Ping Gang, who are located on 74th and Perry. All of these sets are insane and move under the Alliance 6775. BrickSquadd beefs with sets such as 600, O Block, THF 46, Dog Pound, Face World, Front Street, AMG, Lowlife, SMB, Tim, May Block, Dipset, DOD, Daytome and Lamron. What we will mostly focus on is of course the war with AMG, Lamron, Dipset and OB600, since those were the ones that really popped off around the times Lil JOJO came around and stirred up the whole war. BrickSquadd and D-Block's war with Dipset is really the first war that is relevant to this story. They were actually cool at first and even had songs together. It was only after Ichi from BrickSquadd was killed that everything would change. Ichi was shot and killed at a party on July 16, 2011 by Dante Daniels from Dipset. As I said earlier, Dipset and BrickSquadd were cool at this time. This is why they had parties together and whatnot. The murder of Ichi was really incredibly unnecessary and stupid. The party was held on the 7000 block of South Eggleston Avenue in D-Block territory. At the party, Ichi got into an argument with Dante from Dipset, because Dante refused to loan his hack to Ichi's friend. The dispute grew heated, with Dante displaying a handgun tucked in his waistband. Ichi then punched Dante in the face and raised his fists, as if expecting Dante to hit him back. But instead, he drew his gun and shot Ichi 4 times before fleeing the party. Ichi, whose real name was Ichi Muhammad, tragically died 5 days after the shooting, and BrickSquadd/D-Block adopted his nickname, which formed Ichiville. The killer, Dante Daniels, was charged with the murder and sentenced to 20 years in jail and will be released in early March next year. Revenge would come quickly from BrickSquadd/D-Block, and it would come hard. Just 4 days later, Killa Kimo and P. Rico from BrickSquadd allegedly killed Fanny from Dipset. 2 months later it was time again when Kimo, yet again, allegedly killed Ty from Dipset. 3 months later, in December 2011, they would score their 3rd time on Dipset in the same year when Clado from D-Block allegedly killed D-Tay from Dipset. The revenge continued in 2012 when Del Gotti from BrickSquadd allegedly killed D-Rose from Dipset in the summer. Next year, Vari from D-Block allegedly killed Vun from Dipset, and the following year BrickSquadd would make it 6-1 when Killa Kells allegedly killed Jack Ball from Dipset. D-Block/BrickSquadd literally terrorized Dipset for the killing of Ichi. There's even a story that Dante, who killed Ichi, turned himself into the police the same night because he knew he would get killed if he got away with it. BrickSquadd's beef with Lamron started to heat up in 2012, but of course it had already been going on, since Lamron killed Thomas from D-Block in 2010 during a robbery, as I told you about earlier. BrickSquadd and Lamron were not close to being main enemies before 2012. BrickSquadd mostly focused on Dipset and AMG. Even Lil JOJO used to slide on AMG around this time. He shot at members such as Lil T, Peasky and Boleg. At this time, Lamron mostly focused on Shields and No Love City, but that would soon change when Lil Durk dropped the song L's Anthem on March 28, 2012. In the song, Lil Durk rapped, "BrickSquadd, I say FM, want the world with them, so FM." This line was extremely disrespectful at the time. In 2012, the mockery in songs was not as usual as it is today. So when members of BrickSquadd heard this, they were mad but also thought it was weird for Lil Durk to mention them since Lamron was not into it with them like that, and because Lil Durk never had done anything against them. Swag actually spoke about the moment when he and JoJo heard the song for the first time. They were sitting in a car in traffic and suddenly the song was played on the radio. Once they heard the disrespectful line about BrickSquadd, JoJo said, "He's talking about F us on the radio. You heard that, bro? Hell nah. We're gonna go crazy, that's it." Swag and JoJo really thought it was weird for Lil Durk to mention BrickSquadd. but also mentioned that an underlying reason could be that a chief from BrickSquadd allegedly beat Lil Durk. However, I do not know if that is true. There is a narrative that it was Elzanthem who started the whole war, but the fact is both Lil Durk and BrickSquadd dissed each other in songs already in 2009, 2010 and 2011. The only difference with Elzanthem was that the mockery was literally displayed all over the country on radio and YouTube. They really felt disrespected on a new level because of all the attention Lil Durk, the song and Lameron got. Just a month after Lil Durk released Elzanthem, Lil JOJO responded with one of Chicago's most iconic and significant songs in history. Of course, I'm talking about the remix of Chief Keef's hit song Every Day, which JOJO renamed 300K, BDK, which basically means 300 Killer and Black Disciple Killer, referring to his hatred for three people in specific, Lil Reese, Lil Durk and Chief Keef. Do not get me wrong, there is certainly more depth behind it. There have probably been fights, robberies and shootings that we outsiders do not know about, but after Lil Durk made Elzanthem, JOJO really wanted war. One thing to be clear though, much of this conflict was actually just rap beef while JOJO was alive. Sure, there were one or two shootings that JOJO, Durk and Reese were involved in, but other than that, there was no murders between BrickSquadd and Lameron other than Thomas, which started this whole war. It was first after JOJO's death that things really escalated. You must also remember that we are talking about a very short period of time here. JOJO was shot dead just 5 months after he released the song BDK in 2012. I just want you to keep that in mind while watching this story. A lot of this beef was also for the internet. That's one of the reasons why it is so famous. I personally remembered following this beef in real time on Twitter. Now back to the song 300. This song really had a huge impact. Lil JOJO started off the song with a hook where he immediately gave his message. These people claim 300 but we BDK. Later in the first verse he acknowledged what Lil Durk said in Elzanthem with a line, Durk say F BrickSquadd, so I cannot wait to catch him, squeeze this 40. Now they got him on a stretcher. JOJO really wasted no time and got straight to the point. What you need to remember is that Lil JOJO not only mocked Lameron and Chief Keef with this song, you really need to understand the meaning of BDK, especially at this point. If someone raps BDK or GDK today, it may be a maximum of 2 to 3 sets that really care, and it is usually them that you are into it with. However, back in 2012, when Lil JOJO said BDK, all Black Disciple sets on the south side took offense. They felt like JOJO declared war with the whole Black Disciple nation, which he did. This is why the song had such a big impact and escalated the war to another level after Lil Durk's song Elzanthem. Just like I mentioned earlier, this beef was mostly for the internet. It was a lot about mockery back and forth on social media. JOJO looked for attention from Durk, Reese and Keef but was mostly ignored. However, in mid-June 2012, JOJO was actually close to catching a body on Lameron. Most people already know about this event since Lil JOJO later mentioned it in one of his songs. On June 20th, 2012, Lil JOJO slid on Lameron and spotted Chiraq who he shot at, but Chiraq luckily got away by ducking the bullets and running away quickly from the scene. Lil JOJO boasted about this situation on Twitter just one day after the incident and mocked Chiraq. He wrote tweets such as, "Who thought Chiraq to run?" and "No lackin', keep you all head up," while tagging both Lil Reese and Lil Durk. It was very clear to many that Lil JOJO was seeking attention from Reese, Durk and Keef, that's why he tagged them. But I see it more as he really wanted to get his message out. I do not see JoJo as a clout-chasing rapper who wanted attention for money or fame. JoJo was really in the street, and I think he really wanted to get his message out, to create his movement. That's why he managed to make such a big impact in such a short period. You can actually compare it to King Bun, who also made a huge impact music-wise in a short time and created the movement, "I'm Not From 63rd", which I think will live on for a long time. At the end of July 2012, Lil JoJo and Lil Durk went back and forth on Twitter several times. It's really iconic conversations that will be looked back on years in the future. On July 30th, Lil JoJo tweeted Lil Durk where he said, "Say stop writing shorty, you giving him shine. Fam, you started this when you said F BrickSquadd, but we're ready for whatever." Lil JoJo refers to when Lil Durk the same day told OJ from Lamron not to respond to Lil JoJo's tweets, to not give him any attention. Lil Durk actually responded to this tweet by saying, "Meet us at the top, then start beefing. Nobody knows you." JoJo responded by clowning Lil Durk for not helping his friends fight at the Robe, which refers to the Paul Robeson High School in Englewood where both JoJo and Lil Durk attended. JoJo was basically woofing at Lil Durk and Lil Reese all the time on Twitter, usually without response, and I really do not think Lamron or O'Block cared about him in the beginning since he was not seen as a real threat. Don't get me wrong, they would have killed on sight at any time if they had their chance, which they eventually did, but there were plenty of killers with bodies under their belts that Lamron was more concerned about. However, in the end, Lamron, Lowlife, O'Block and 600 were looking to make an example out of JoJo, since he was the face of BDK movement. This beef was really the first time a war went viral across the internet that people from the outside could follow in real time. That is the reason why 300 OB 600 wanted to set an example for the world to see. JoJo continued to mock J-Rock on Twitter for a while. He even tweeted Rex from Lamron and said, "Trained to blow, you better ask J-Rock." The incident with J-Rock was also something JoJo mentioned in his next hit song, Tied Up, where he rapped the iconic line, "People scared looking like J-Rock when we rolled up." When the drill scene later became famous in 2017 to 2018, and people really started to get interested in what happened behind all the music, many people thought that J-Rock was actually dead and that Lil JoJo killed him, which of course is false. However, J-Rock was not the only person Lil JoJo mocked in the song Tied Up. In the music video to the song, they had a person tied up a chair with the purpose of resembling Chief Keef, which was a way of mockery by Lil JoJo, much like when King Bun had an actor who would resemble FBG Duck in the song Took Her to the O. A funny anecdote about the music video for Tied Up is that it was Lil Durk's cousin Lil Mister from Wugga World who was paid $5 to resemble Chief Keef in the video. In mid-August 2012, JoJo's personal beef with Lil Durk and Lil Reese would really take off. Lil JoJo was riding around in traffic with BrickSquadd members when they suddenly spotted Lil Durk and Lil Reese in traffic. JoJo picked up the camera and started recording when they chased them, but as I understand it, it turned around later when Lil Durk and Lil Reese allegedly shot at JoJo and the BrickSquadd members, without hitting anyone. This is to my knowledge the first real interaction JoJo had with Durk and Reese where things were really getting dangerous. I'm aware that Lil JoJo and Lil Durk attended the same high school, but according to what I have heard, is that they rarely had any interactions with each other, not even fights. A big reason for that is because Lil Durk was 2 years older than JoJo, so Durk was mostly into it with BrickSquadd and No Love City members that were the same age as him. There's also a rumor that Lil Durk apparently got knocked out and thrown out of a window by IG from BrickSquadd at Robeson, and stopped going to school after that. However, I do not know how true that story is. At the Robe was also Lil Steve and Chief Wook from Lamron, as well as the twins from TYMB, Cortez and Courtney. At this time, TYMB and Lamron were really close. They helped each other in several fights against 051YM, BrickSquadd and No Love City. However, there are many who say that Durk never helped his guys in fights and that he tried to stay out of it. Anyway, after the incident in traffic with Durk and Lil Reese, JoJo took it to Twitter where he clowned Durk and Reese by tweeting, "Why is y'all running? Stop the car," and also admitted to being shot at when he wrote, "People shot at me and missed. Lord knows that God blessed him," in which he tagged both Reese and Durk. The next day, JoJo tweeted again to Durk and Reese and suggested that link up and said, "Yesterday was bussin'." Now we are actually starting to come towards the end of the story, because we arrived in late August and early September 2012, which was the month Lil JoJo was killed. I will now take everything in chronological order because a lot happened that eventually led to his death. On August 31st, 2012, Lil JoJo released another diss track, I Got Dat Sack, which was a remix of Yo Gotti's original version. In the song, he dissed Lamron, Lil Reese, Lil Durk, Chief Keef and also gave a shout out to P. Rico for doing hits on DOD. This song did not get as much attention as Tied Up and BDK. I feel like the reason for that is because his dissing got kind of repetitive. It was the same thing every time, so the reactions was not as strong as when he dropped BDK since he already had set the standard. I feel like dissing in general, especially when it comes to name dropping, has died out over the last 2 years. It's getting old and I think most people feel that way. One thing with JoJo was that he really was not afraid to challenge fate. He was not afraid to drop his location to his ops, and the day he died was not the first time he did it. In late August 2012 he tweeted his location to Lil Durk, Reese and Chief Keef, however nothing happened that time. Lil Reese from Lamron responded to Lil JoJo's freestyle by tweeting, I do not do that rap beef, quickest way for first 48 to come out, 300. JoJo later responded to this tweet with a link to his freestyle. On September 1st, 2012, JoJo posted a picture of them standing on Lamron's block on 64th and Normal, which Lil Reese responded to by tweeting, "We in the trap, Lil dude. You all snitching got our block hot." JoJo later responded to Reese by tweeting, "We stay out there, y'all not nowhere to be found." Just like I wrote earlier, there was always a back and forth Twitter beef between JoJo, Lil Reese and Lil Durk that escalated through real life events. 3 days later, on September 4th, everything escalated further, and just hours later, Lil JoJo was murdered. At 5:02 p.m., September 4th, Lil JoJo tweeted, "Just caught Lil Reese in traffic, his daddy trying to talk it out." This tweet stems from the video that most of you have already seen, where Lil JoJo and his brother Swag caught Lil Reese slacking by his car. JoJo recorded the incident, and by the look on Lil Reese, he first thought they were about to shoot at him and tried to hide behind the car. But when he saw the camera, he instead went forward and shouted, "I'ma kill you, JoJo," several times as JoJo and Swag drove away. This particular video is a prime example of what I mean when I say that JoJo mostly did this for the internet. There is no denying that. Because if he really was out to kill that day, he would have pulled up and started shooting instead of recording. The same minute that JoJo tweeted about the incident, Swag also wrote a tweet in which he wrote, "The look on Lil Reese's face when me and JoJo rode up on them."
Boy, you a bitch, boy. Hey, reach this little bitch. Yeah. What the fuck is wrong with you, boy? Hey, I am BrickSquadd. Yeah, BrickSquadd, boy. What the fuck is you talking about, boy? You little bitch. Y'all heirs, man. What the fuck is wrong with y'all, boy?
Just 6 minutes after this incident, JoJo tweeted again and mentioned Lil Reese, "I'm out here on my 2 feet, where y'all at?" Almost exactly an hour later, at 6:13 to be precise, the next tweet came from Lil JoJo, a tweet that would have devastating consequences, not only for JoJo but for the future as well. Of course, I'm talking about the tweet where he gave away his location openly for the public to see. "I'm on 069. I'm out here," he said. As soon as Lamron, SMG, O'Block, Lowlife and 600 saw the tweet, they quickly got together and got into 3 cars. They knew there was a risk of only bringing 1 car because you have to remember this, just because a member tweet his location, it's not easy to just come and kill him. The main thing in wars like this is to play defense, shooting up cars that try to slide to not lose any member. The risk when a member releases their location is that they usually are prepared for someone to slide, and therefore are already ready with weapons to shoot back. Therefore, the shooters chose to come with 3 cars, filled with top members from different sets, each set wanting to catch him to be able to claim him. Almost exactly 1 hour after JoJo released his location, at 7:30 to be exact, he was sitting on the front handlebars of a bike, which was cycled by Des from BrickSquadd, on 69th Street and Princeton Avenue. The video footage from the murder scene was recently released on Reddit. In the video, you can see Des and JoJo riding the bike in the middle of the street while 3 cars are trailing them. You can also see JoJo looking back once or twice at the cars, probably in panic of what is about to happen. I can't even imagine what went through his head at that moment. Imagine getting followed by 3 cars that want you dead. It must have been pure horror. According to the murder report, the 3 cars were actually seen once before the murder, circulating the area, looking for JoJo. The second time they came around, they spotted him. The video footage does not show the actual murder since the camera was facing the other direction. Once the cars came close to JoJo and Dez, they jumped off the bike and ran in two different directions. Dez ran down the street where the cars came from while JoJo ran in the opposite direction, the direction the vehicles were facing. Lil JoJo did his absolute best to get out of danger, but unfortunately, the bullets caught up to him. Lil JoJo got hit once in the lower back, but he was still running, which caused the bullet to travel up to his heart, which in turn caused him to collapse in front of the stop sign located at 70th and Eggleston as he was trying to run around the corner, which is exactly behind where the camera was located. Lil JOJO was found unresponsive around 9 p.m. with a gunshot wound, and was tragically later pronounced dead at the University of Chicago Medical Center. Lil JOJO, who had just turned 18 in 2012, was just about to sign a deal with a big record label, Interscope Records. Swag said his brother's dream was to sign to a major record label, but that his dream was cut short. Lil JOJO was really a rising rap star. He could have really made it out if he was not acting so reckless in the streets. That's the truth. He was not moving smart and did too much on the internet to get attention. As I mentioned earlier, this was one of the first real social media and rap beef that turned to murder in Chicago. The people on the outside really followed the war in real time. Of course it was not as big as now, but still, we can still see it today, not least with the murder of FBG Cash that occurred just weeks ago. Robin, who was Lil JOJO's mother, said in an interview after the murder that she was not willing to discuss whether her son belonged to the gangster disciples, but for the people who followed the war, it was clear. She said, "His music was his music. I did not get into what he did. When he left my house, I tried to be there, tried to teach my son the right way. But you cannot hold a child's hand every step of the way. So what he did in the streets, I do not know about. What he raps about, I do not know about. Whatever's going on out there, I do not know." Now many people are wondering who actually killed Lil JOJO? Well, there are several different theories and I'm going to go through all of them. One thing you have to remember is that there were a lot of people on that hit since it was 3 cars. I do not know if each car was full, but my guess is that the drivers was not alone. At first, rumors abounded that Lil Reese, Frito, Lil Durk and Chief Keef were involved in the murder, since they were the ones who beefed up with JOJO openly on Twitter, and also wrote taunting tweets immediately after the murder. These rumors are of course false to my knowledge. They were most likely involved in the background, since they were the people with the money, fame and had personal beef with JOJO, especially Lil Reese, who could have died the same day if JOJO really was out to kill him. It really does not look good to say "I will kill you" and only 2 hours later the person in question is murdered. But as I said, these rumors are false. Robin, JOJO's mother, even said in an interview that she doesn't believe Chief Keef pulled the trigger, but that he paid someone to kill her son. However, if that is true or not, I don't know. Another rumor that began to flourish fairly quickly after the murder was that it was KK from Tay-Town/Lamron, Frito from Front Street, D Rose from 600 and Poo-Poo from SMG who was behind the murder. Of these names, there are 3 I have heard that supposedly was present at the murder, and they are Poo-Poo from SMG, D Rose from 600, and KK from Tay-Town/Lamron. The main reason why Poo-Poo has been implicated in the murder is partly due to self-snitching. He is still dissing him on social media to this day, but also because of Chief Keef mentioning him in songs. In the song War by Chief Keef, which was released in early 2014, he rapped, "All these damn frenemies, I'm a call up Poo-Poo man." A fan on Twitter also asked Chief Keef who Poo-Poo man is, in which he responded with, "069. Poo-Poo from SMG is a known shooter and killer. In addition to being involved in the murder of Lil JOJO, it is also rumored that he was involved in the brutal double murder on OJ from Jaro City/Dal Mob and Lil D from Met Boys in 2010. The reason why KK from Lamron/Daytown has been rumored to be involved is because he was murdered just 2 weeks after the murder of JoJo, after he appeared in a video, taunting Lil JoJo immediately after the murder. According to sources to the police, the murder of KK was an immediate response by BrickSquadd. However, many members of Daytown have implied that it was Shields and not BrickSquadd who was behind the murder of KK, which is true is difficult to know. The name from BrickSquadd who has been rumored to be involved in the murder of KK is Mussolina, one of BrickSquadd's top killers. From the beginning, the KK rumor came from a Facebook post by Tato from Front Street where he said, JoJo thought the same thing until he saw D Rose, Frito and Kiki pull up on him. Boom boom. However, Tato later stated that his Facebook was hacked, and Frito also said it was fake and of course denied being involved. Now, we come to the theory that I think is most believable and that is fairly new, at least when it comes to one of the names, and that is Loico from Low Life. Loico passed away in 2021 due to natural causes, and after his death, several BrickSquadd members began mocking him and honoring Lil JoJo, which usually means his killer is dead. There is also a Facebook post by Louis from a block, in which he mentioned a bunch of murders where he gave shout out to each set who was the responsible. In the post he wrote, F Lil JoJo, shout out Low Life, implying it was Low Life who killed JoJo and not Poo Poo from SMG as many have previously believed, even if I still think he was present. Loico was one of Low Life's top members. He was also very close with several O-Block members such as Boss Top and King Von and have appeared in several music videos recorded in O-Block. Computers by Boss Top for example. He is also featured in Boss Top's interview in O-Block after the murder of FBG Duck where Top said, "Don't say shit about T-Roy." In addition to Lil JoJo, it is also rumored that Loico was the killer of Hussey from BrickSquadd/JJ Gang in January 2017. Two other people who have long been rumored to be involved are J Money and Ray Rilla from O-Block, where the latter has a tattoo that says JOJO. I don't really know what the J Money rumor is based on except that he constantly mocked him on Twitter, but so did many others. The last name I will mention, which is the name that is actually mentioned most of all, is D Rose from 600. There is much to suggest that he was guaranteed to be present at the murder, because only a week later he was actually brought in for questioning since the police felt they actually had actual leads and proof that he was present. However, D Rose was later released for lack of evidence, and because D Rose most likely did not say a word. D Rose was really 600's wildest member and I will do a full story on him soon. To come to some kind of summary and conclusion of what I have heard from various sources of who I think is most believable to have been present at the murder, there are 6 names. D Rose from 600, Kiki from Daytown/Lamron, Loico from Low Life, Poo Poo from SMG, and Ray Rilla and J Money from O-Block. That's the names that I think it points to the most, and that I have heard from members have been present at the murder. Just as expected, there were no limits on the mockery after Lil JoJo's death, not least by D Rose, Lil Reese, Chief Keef, King Von, J Money, Poo Poo, Ray Rilla and several other Lamron, SMG, Low Life, THF46, RB600 and Front Street members. He was basically mocked by all the BD gangs, which wasn't a surprise since he literally created the BDK movement. Even G Herbo and multiple other members from No Limit mocked him after his death. I will just let the tweets and pictures speak for themselves.
Yeah, man, my nigga Moody gonna be Lil JoJo for Halloween.
I get on the JoJo bill?
Hey, who's gonna be for Halloween this year? I'm JoJo. JoJo?
Can I get on the JoJo?
This was the story of Lil JoJo from BrickSquadd, one of my favorite artists from Chicago. He had an enormous impact on the drill scene with his unique music style. Lil JoJo appeared in an interview just a few days before he was murdered. He seemed like a good and kind teenager who basically became a product of his environment. I really feel like he would be a big mainstream artist today if he was alive. He had the charisma, music and his own style, and was one of the first to do so in his own way. I hope you like this story. Do not forget to like, comment and subscribe to the channel. Rest in peace to all young men who have lost their lives to gang violence.